What is up guys, Human Carjack here, and today we're going to be rebuilding our BC Racing coilovers. So we have a couple of different replacement parts here. We had actually replaced one of these the first time that we had installed the BC Racing coilovers, or it might have actually been the second time when we put on the Swift Spring upgrade. So these sit just below the camber plates, and it basically has what's called a coil bearing, so it allows a little bit of movement so that the coilovers don't seize up and they can move a little bit more freely. And we have some lower locking rings that we're going to replace as well, just because whenever you use the spanner wrench in order to undo these, the ones that are currently on the car, they got kind of pretty chewed up with the spanner wrench, so we're going to go ahead and replace them. Now the main reason why we're working on the coilovers today is because of right here. So this little screw right here went ahead and snapped on us. So if you guys could see, I don't know if you could see actually, this one right here, you see how this little washer is spinning? Yeah, so that's what was happening with this one as well. So I went ahead and tightened it, not even, I think like maybe like half a turn, and it just stripped on me. So these two over here are tight, so they're actually locked down. This one is spinning freely, and this one was also spinning freely, so we basically have to replace this whole camber plate because it's seized onto the top of the coilover here. Now this was an issue from day one since I got these coilovers, because I got them used. Everything else about them were pretty good except for these camber plates. So the camber adjustment basically was not available. We basically had to keep it like this. But to be honest, the way that we've had it, it's -3 front and rear, so it's honestly not that bad. I don't mind it, but I would like to have that option since we do have camber plates, so I'd like to be able to adjust them. So it might be a real pain in the ass to take them off, because the previous owner of these coilovers, they didn't actually mention this to me. They told me that everything was pretty much, you know, unseized. They had everything loosened up for me, so I didn't know much about coilovers, so I didn't know that these would be seized. So I'm wondering if he had actually attempted to replace these and he just couldn't, and then just said, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to sell these. But I really hope that that's not the case. We're going to use some penetrating fluid. We're going to maybe heat it up if we need to and see if we can remove these. The one on this side isn't stripped or anything, but since we do have the camber plates coming today, we might as well replace them. The camber plates actually haven't come in yet, but in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and remove them. According to the post office, it should be here, so let's see what happens. Upon inspection, I see that the dust boot over here is ripped, so there's probably a whole lot of crap getting in there that shouldn't be in there. So damn, I think we have to order one of these as well. This is like super cheap. I think it's like $5 on their website, but it just sucks because I have the coilover part now. But damn, okay. Let's check the other side too. Oh, same thing. What is happening? So both of these are just ripped. Huh. Another thing too that I'm noticing, I know that the car is off the ground right now, so there's no weight in front, but I don't think this should be happening. So right here on the passenger side, it's still pretty, you know, like fitted here. That's not the word, but basically the spring is making contact here, so if I move this up and down, there is no upward and down motion. I should be able to spin it. This is perfect, and I shouldn't be able to move it up and down. But if we look on the driver's side, it's a bit of a different story where I can spin it. Yeah, I can spin it, but it's really loose where it actually moves up and down. Like, it's very little, but I think that's what I've been hearing on the highway and stuff, and this might have actually came loose a bit. So yeah, we've got some work to do with these coilovers. So I'm going to work on getting the coilover removed now. I'm going to start with these big bolts. So I think it's basically just those two bolts, because if I move this, you see how the whole thing wiggles around? So I think I just have to loosen up the top bolts in the engine bay, and it should pop right out. Alright, I think this coilover is ready to come out now. Yep. There we go. Okay, we got it out. Very nice. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start by removing all these top nuts over here and to remove the camber plate, and then we're going to give this thing a nice thorough cleaning. Alright, so those basically come off together. So that's a 14mm. I'm going to put that to the side. Now we have an Allen key here together with a, I want to say a 17 millimeter. I believe that's a 17. The thing that sucks is I just painted these, so we're gonna have to mess them up again, but that's all right. So yeah, 17 millimeter wrench and 5 millimeter Allen key. Oh man, this thing doesn't want to come out now. Jeez, what the hell, man? All right, well at least we got that off. So our 17 millimeter nut is off as well, and there goes our camber plate. So yeah, so this basically got stuck, and recently someone on Instagram who has these same coilovers talked about this, how these pieces right over here, it basically gets seized up because I believe there's like a plastic piece here that shouldn't be. It should be metal, something along those lines. Don't quote me on that, but basically this is all seized up, and now when we put the new camber plates on, we have to put a little bit of anti-seize kind of everywhere on all these pieces over here, you know, so we have to be mindful of that. All right, let's check out the condition of the coil bearing here. So there was one of them in the front that I put on that was a little bit newer. I only replaced one of them. I don't remember why exactly, but yeah, let's check out the condition of this. Man, look at how much crap is in between the bearing and this little plastic spacer thing. Holy moly. Yeah, this got really dirty. I think this was actually the newer one, but it still kind of spins like crap. So we have these two new ones here, right over here, so we might as well put them on. Alright, let's see what else is going on. Yeah, look at this dust boot thing. It is just ripped to shreds. How the heck does that happen on both of them? That's crazy. Okay, so I'm going to continue taking this thing apart, but first, just as a reference, I want to go ahead and measure between these two little locking nuts. So we're going to use our little thing over here. So it's going to give us an exact measurement in millimeters, just so that when we readjust the coil, it's at the same height. I'm going to clean this up. We got some toothbrushes here, some very light wire brushes, and some brake cleaner. So we're gonna go ahead and clean these a little bit. I'll catch you guys in a bit. So we gave everything a nice thorough cleaning. We did as best as we could to get the threads all cleaned up, clean up the spring itself. The dust boot is gonna stay in as is. I actually called the local shop to see if they do have any dust boots. They don't, so we went ahead and ordered some from BC Racing. They're gonna come in about 3 days, but I can't have the car up on jacks for 3 days, so we're gonna leave that as is for now, and then another time I'll just go ahead and replace it. So we do have our new coil bearing, so that's gonna go right on top of here. And again, we are still waiting on that camber plate to come in, so we're gonna keep things as is like this. I'm gonna go ahead and work on the other side. All right, so we got number 2 off here, same procedure. Dang, look at this. Look at how seized it is. It doesn't even unstick from the spring. That's crazy. Oh wow. Dude, that's nuts. Alright, so while we're still struggling to get this piece of the camber plate off the passenger side coilover, our package just came with our new camber plates, so let's do a little unboxing and see what we got. Alright, fresh new camber plate. Oh, actually, I didn't know, it actually comes with the whole coil bearing as well. So it actually comes with the coil bearing here too, so I had a bunch of extra and now I guess I don't even need them. So this one was fresh, so I guess we're putting both of these to the side again. So yeah, so this whole piece just goes right on and then you're pretty much set. Look at the difference here. Look at this. Look at how rusty that is. Look how it became. And now look at this. Fresh. New bolts and everything over here, so I don't have to worry about the fact that I kind of scuffed these when I took them off. So not a big issue there. I would like to actually take this apart though and get some anti-seize in between this plate over here and the top of the camber plate. One thing to note too, now that I'm looking at the new camber plate, so right here is where the coil bearing sits right onto, so right there. So I think once I do get this off, right in here is where I'm going to put the anti-seize so that this doesn't happen again, because this is stuck and it's a pain in the butt. So anti-seize right over there, and I'm going to find a couple more spots for it underneath here too. Yeah. Alright, so we actually managed to knock the camber plate off, but here is the real culprit. So on the coil bearing right over here, you see this? This is supposed to spin. I don't know if you guys could see that very well, but yeah, this is supposed to spin and it's not spinning, so this is actually what has seized. So yeah, I'm gonna have a fun time taking this off. Okay, so it turns out that the screwdrivers didn't do anything. I couldn't really pry it off, so we're gonna try some heat instead.
One eternity later.
Oh my gosh, that took a long time. That took hours. So this whole thing took way longer than it did to take off all the coils and get up to where we are now. So yeah, this is basically what happened. It seized up in the middle. It got all rusted and I kind of ate it up trying to get it off. But yeah, so that's off now. We're gonna go ahead and clean this, do everything that we did to that, and we'll put the new camber plates on and we'll call it a day. One thing that I have to do now for this, I had to lower the spring a little bit just so that it didn't cause any tension on the seized up coil bearing. So we have to remeasure again and basically set the preload one more time. Okay guys, so we managed to clean up everything. We cleaned all the threads out with our brake clean and everything. So now in order to make sure that the future when we do have to do another coilover rebuild, because you probably will have to, after a couple of years these parts tend to wear and tear down a little bit, we're gonna go ahead and put our NECs on all the threads of the rings and all throughout the body right over here, and just anywhere we think that would need adjustment and we don't want it to seize up on us. So just coating everything with a very thin, light amount of NECs there. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and throw some on the inside of this ring as well. Alright, so we've been moving along pretty nicely. We put NECs on all the lock rings and all that stuff, so now we just have to disassemble the new camber plate and put the NECs on the different parts that we feel that might need it. So we're going to undo this, and we're going to start with right in here. Alright, so that was step one. We're going to go ahead and remove these Allen key bolts. Whoa, they're actually pretty tight on there. Alright, so I just wanted to give you guys a little bit better view there. So we took off all 4 of these little Allen key screws. They come with a little washer too. It's going to put this to the side. So you just lift this part up, and we're just going to put NECs right over here on the bottom just so that it doesn't get stuck right over here just like it did on this side, because this got all rusted up on the original one, so we don't want that to happen again. Alright, that's that. So we're going to do the same thing for the other side. Because this was our issue in the first place, that the coil bearing had seized up, I don't even see a little place here where we could put some NECs in, so it might just happen again, which is going to suck. So right now it's swiveling pretty good. I'm not too sure what I can do for it so that that doesn't happen, but maybe I could put a little bit over here and kind of, I don't know, hope that I can stuff it in there a little bit, but yeah, there's not much I can do. So the coil bearings are all greased up with NECs, so we're just going to go ahead and slide it on top. The seat's right there. Make sure that everything is spinning good. And then we put our camber plate right on top, just like that. And then we have our nuts. So the nut that it came with, the nylon nut, should go ahead and put that right on. Alright, so we got our nut on there. We still haven't really dialed in our camber plates because we're not entirely sure how to do it yet, so because I didn't have to do it the first time around. So this is basically going to be our driver's side setup, so this is how it's going to look as well. So what I'm going to do is use our old camber plate as a reference. So we see that we basically put it all the way up, so like this, right? So the slider was like there, and I have to move the screw, so I basically have to put one of the screws down there. So yeah, so we're just going to make those adjustments. So I just went ahead and adjusted the preload settings on the driver's side coilover. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how it's done on the passenger side. So I went by BC Racing's recommended preload setting of 4 millimeters. The thing to note too is that each coilover is designed lengthwise and everything for your car. So what I did, or what they did pretty much, is the way I had the coilover set up previously, the distance between these two locking collars was a little bit smaller. It was 68.9 millimeters, and right now, by going by BC Racing's recommendation, it came all the way out to 76.2. So that's a 7.3 millimeter difference So my car is basically going to be raised a 1/4 of an inch more, which isn't a big deal. I'm going to go by their setting just because when I took off one of the coilovers, the spring was actually pretty loose. So if we keep it here, it'll keep the spring a little more compressed. So we'll just go with that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and adjust our preload now. So you guys can see right now that the play, there's a little bit of play in the spring, so I can move it up and down. So we're going to go ahead and take the locking ring, or locking collar, whatever you want to call it, that's right below the spring, and we're going to turn it towards us. Alright, so that's actually going to tighten up the spring. So you see how there's play. Now as we drive it up, rotate it towards me, there's not so much play. So we want to rotate this until we basically can't do it anymore by hand. So that's about right there. Okay, so it's pretty tight there, so looking good. Alright, so now the locking collar that's right below it, we're going to go ahead and seat it right up against the one that's right below the spring. Okay, the one that we just adjusted. So right there, so snug fit, not too tight though, so right over there. Okay, so using our bigger spanner wrench, we're going to go ahead and rotate this towards us, so it's basically going to move this top collar up and compress the spring a little bit more. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to rotate this until we can fit this part of our spanner wrench right in between, and that's going to let us know that that's 4 millimeters of preload. Make sure too that you're holding this bottom locking collar there, it's not moving as you're adjusting this, because that will throw you off, and I've done that in the past when I first started working on coilovers. So nice little handy tip there. So we're just about there. We want it to be a snug fit, so that's pretty snug. I want it to be a little more snug, so I'm gonna pull it back a little bit, see if we can get the spanner wrench to be a little more snug in there, not too much. Okay, so it's probably good the way it was. Let's say right there. Yeah, right over there. Okay, cool. So a little bit of resistance, so just like that. So a little bit of resistance in between our spanner wrench and the two locking nuts. So we're gonna go ahead and leave that as is. Alright, so now that we completed that step, we're gonna go ahead and remove our spanner wrench. We're gonna take that lower collar, go ahead and spin it up just to hit that bottom collar right there. Okay, and now is where we can finally tighten it all down. So bigger spanner wrench, obviously going to go on the bigger collar, the smaller one on the smaller, and we're going to go ahead and lock them into place just like so, just like that. Alright, so we're going to take a measurement just to compare to the other coilover that we set up. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my tool here. Okay, so we had 76.20 as the measurement here. So let's see what we get. Go ahead and adjust it. Let's see, it should be just about the same. So it's actually a little bit different. This is actually 73.6. So this is actually more ideal for me because this is lower. So I'm going to go ahead and actually go back and adjust the other one. Maybe fine tune that a little bit more and see if I can get it to exactly this same length. So we finally managed to get both of our coilover settings exactly the same. I was pretty pretty in depth with that. I was really constantly checking to make sure that they're both about the same. So just to make sure that everything is the way it should be, we're going to go ahead and try to spin them. So just holding on to here and then spinning the spring. The spring can still move, but still if I go up and down, there isn't any play with it. So we're going to go ahead and check the other one as well. So it spins. Oh wait, actually this one doesn't spin. Oh, actually it does. No, it was just a little stuck. Yeah, so it spins and no up and down movement. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. So yeah, they're ready to be reinstalled on the car. And let's try and get a quick thumbnail for the tubes. I am actually going to be using the hardware that I got from Home Depot as far as the screws that go on top of the engine bay. I'm pretty sure that these that they give you I don't know what material that they're made of, but I know that they're not weatherproof, so that these will rust. So I went ahead and got some zinc ones at Home Depot that should last a lot longer, but I'm definitely going to save these in case those do start to wear and tear, and then I have these as replacements.
The next day.
Alright guys, so everything is dialed in with the suspension now with the car. So when I brought the car to get aligned, surprisingly it wasn't too far off of the normal alignment that I normally have. The camber was thrown off a little bit in the front. Normally I have it sitting at 3 degrees on all 4 corners, but in the front it was at 3 on one side and 4 on the other, which really isn't that bad. Anytime I do any sort of like coilover removal or anything like that, it tends to be way out of whack. So this wasn't too bad. The car was even driving straight on the way there. So here are the parts that we have left over. Again, if you want to go ahead and swap out your own camber plates, all you have to pretty much do, and I think honestly would have been easier, would have been to drop down the coil by removing all of the little nuts that are on the top of the camber plates over here. You drop the suspension a little bit. You do that by raising up the car with a jack, and then the suspension will just drop by itself. And then when you pull this out, this should pop out. In my case, because this was seized, it didn't pop out. But if you've had your coilovers properly lubricated before you put them in, with all the anti-seize in all the right places, this should just pop right out. It should be a way simpler job than what I showed you guys today. So these are going in the garbage, these are going in the garbage, and we still have these leftover parts. So if we ever want to swap out the coil bearings and this bottom ring, the reason why I didn't swap out this bottom ring, it just wasn't coming loose. So I mean, I guess I'll just keep it as a paperweight. So guys, again, another reminder, we have a Patreon page now, and we also have a merchandise store. I'll put both of those links on screen right now so you can see. The merchandise store has some keychains and stickers around the way, and the Patreon is there if you want some exclusive content or if you just want to support the channel. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. One last thing I wanted to mention, I actually took the car for a drive yesterday on the highway, and I'm honestly really astonished at how much of a difference the change in the camber plates and the front end links made. The car handles way smoother on the softest dampening setting too. The car is way more livable on bumpy roads and bumpy surfaces. If you guys are wanting to change out your camber plates because they're old, rusty, crusty, I highly suggest it. Alright, that's all for now. Peace.